Before I invite Dr. Pratibha Singh, Deputy Advisor NAC, to share her views about the accreditation and assessment process. Now it's my pleasure to invite Dr. Vidyasagar, the Vice Principal of College of Commerce and Business Management, from where we are conducting this particular webinar, to introduce Dr. Pratibha Singh. Sir.
Yeah, very good morning, all of you. It's my pleasure to introduce Dr. Pratibha Singh. Dr. Pratibha Singh is an engineer by training. She has done PhD in the area of pattern recognition and image processing. She has qualified GATE and a recipient of GATE scholarship for PG. She taught in Institute of Engineering and Technology, DAVV University, and having teaching and research experience of 15 years. She guided research and published more than 35 articles in journals and conference proceedings. She published 2 books and 3 chapters in edited volumes. She represented in various committees of universities such as BOS, examinations, flying squad, admission and evaluation. She joined NAC in 2017. After joining NAC, she was a member of various internal committees such as CWG, DVV, ICT, etc. She was deputed to coordinate the activity of newly opened NAC office at Delhi as in charge in 2018. She is a member of Soft Computing Society and the Indian Unit of Pattern Recognition. She is also a member of Core Working Group for ITI Grading and NCTE for developing Proforma for assessment and grading. Over to you, madam.
Thank you very much, sir. Madam, please.
Oh, thank you very much, sir, for your nice words about introducing my profile. Now, I hope my voice is reaching with good quality and there is no echo.
It's fine, madam. It's fine, madam. Please go ahead. Yeah, it's fine.
Yes, yeah. So thank you very much, sir. Now moving ahead with the today's webinar technical presentation. Our senior colleague, Dr. Shyam Sundar, sir, has already enlightened the audience about the process and the importance of assessment and accreditation. And also he highlighted about the new recent changes which are upcoming for the national education policy and the related matters he already discussed. So now I would be talking about the framework of NAC and how we have developed this revised accreditation framework and what as an external quality assurance agency, the roles and responsibilities of NAC in the process of assessment and accreditation. I would be little bit highlighting the process steps such as the self-study report submission or DVV or peer team visit management, etc. I along with my colleagues will be discussing, and overall presentation is divided into different technical sessions. So it will be started with the quality indicator framework dynamics. So I will be talking about how this framework is developed and what are the components of this framework. Then I would be talking about the overall process of assessment and accreditation along with institutional information for quality assessment, and then the workflow related to self-study report, data validation and verification agents modalities, and the student satisfaction survey and peer team visit management are the other components of this webinar technical sessions. So you may be aware that the vision of NAC is to make the quality the defining element of higher education in India through a combination of self and external quality evaluation, promotion and sustenance initiatives. So basically, we treat a higher education institution and we consider that all the higher education institution has certain vision and certain objectives associated with that particular vision. So in order to achieve the goals and the objectives underlying outlined in the vision statement of the institution. The institutions are continuously striving towards the identification of strength, weakness, opportunities, and challenges. So in order to achieve that objective, they will be working towards in a continuous manner. We as an external quality assurance agency try to measure their efforts in the form of a framework. So our major role is to assess and accredit the institutions of higher learning. And in order to do that, we develop the framework for assessment and accreditation. So the development process is also very interesting. How do we develop the tool or the methodology for the assessment and accreditation, and what are the consideration we take generally during the revision of the framework. So you may be aware that this tool which we are calling the framework for the assessment and accreditation is not a constant framework, but it keeps on revising, and we keep on revising this framework based on the current changes which are happening in the higher education sector of the country. So our effort is towards the external quality assurance, and we develop framework, and we keep on looking back to the framework based on the changes which are happening in the higher education sector. In order to achieve this vision statement, our some mission statements are also there. The first one is to arrange for the periodic assessment and accreditation of institutions of higher education or units thereof, or a specific academic program or projects. So basically, we undertake the periodic assessment. So the first time when the institution is coming for assessment and accreditation, it will be called Cycle 1 institution. And after 5 years, they have to apply for the second cycle and so on, subsequent cycles. So the institution has to undertake the periodic assessment. And in order to do this periodic assessment and accreditation of the institution, the unit for assessment is taken as always institution. There are other accreditation bodies in the country which undertakes the program accreditation, but the NAAC is undertaking the institutional accreditation. And the second one is to stimulate the academic environment for the promotion of quality of teaching, learning, research in higher education. Then the other one is to encourage the self-evaluation, accountability, autonomy, and innovation. So we look towards these aspects in your own report, which you are submitting to NAAC. And also to undertake the quality-related research studies, consultancy, and training programs. So basically, we undertake the various researches which emphasizes the quality-related aspects of the institutions, and various reports are available in the form of publication in the NAAC website. One can look into those reports. Some reports are there for best practices. Some reports are there for teacher learning institutions, and then teacher educations, and there are some reports which are highlighting the various HRD centers of the university. So you can see those reports which are available on NAAC website. Then we collaborate with the other one is to collaborate with the other stakeholders of higher education for quality evaluation, promotion, and sustenance. So basically, we promote collaboration. We consider that all the institutions should collaborate with the other organizations, and we as an accreditation agency also collaborate with the other quality assurance agencies at the national and international level. So moving ahead with this vision and mission statements, how do we take the revisions? So you might be aware that this revised accreditation framework, which is in existence for the assessment and accreditation of its institution, was launched in July 2017. So the main component of this revised accreditation framework is mainly it is a data-driven framework. 70-30 ratio is there between data and information submitted. And we have introduced the concept of third-party evaluation for the data submitted. So we have empaneled list of some few agencies which undertake the data validation and verification on behalf of NAAC. Then we have brought in another change, which is the selection of peer team members. It has to be through the system. So system selection of peer team members is another change which has been there in this particular revised accreditation framework. And we have introduced the student satisfaction survey, which is NAAC is conducting directly from the students. So that is another important new component which was introduced in the revised accreditation framework. So these are some of the important changes which we have brought in this 2017. There are some little variations where we have made some changes in the manual also. So those changes are reflected in the recent manual uploaded on website, and the recent manual, when we have changed this manual, is of January 2020. So one can see those manuals. So now if the institution wants to come for assessment and accreditation, one can ask what is the eligibility criteria. So all the institutions must see the eligibility criteria of NAAC. So eligibility criteria states that the institution should be in existence for 6 years or 2 batches pass out, whichever is earlier is the eligibility criteria. There are other sub-clauses for this eligibility criteria related to campus and offshore campuses. So those can be seen in the manual, but the major requirement is the 6 years of existence should be completed. And then there is a requirement for the data. Huge amount of data is required. So generally, because we take periodic assessment, and last 5 years data we take, and the data because this framework is based on data, so 70% part is data based. So when you are submitting data, this has to be validated by some agency or some partner. So we are validating your data with reference to certain set of documents. So in support of data which you are collecting for the purpose of assessment and accreditation, the supporting documents is another major requirement. Then other requirements are also listed, and those can be seen from the website in Apply Online tab. There is a specific page where all the information is available. And the validity of accreditation is generally for 5 years, but for certain high-performing institutions, where the institutions are performing in a high grade for continuous 2 cycles, and in the 3rd cycle also, if the institution is securing the highest grade, then the validity of accreditation will be extended from 5 years to 7 years. So data, document information, guidelines, manuals, and standard operating procedures and templates are some of the important aspects which an institution should see from the website of NAAC. Now, moving ahead with the framework, the details about the framework. The framework is made up of criteria, key indicator, and metrics. The framework is data-driven framework, out of which 70% is data, and the remaining 30% is qualitative questions, which will be judged by the peer team members. The data part, 70% part, will be validated by a third-party agency, and the entire process is completely automated, starting from registration till the declaration of result. The process is completely automated. Whatever communication you are receiving at the email or the mobile number will be system-driven. The moment you cross certain stage, an auto-generated email will be going to your registered email ID. The entire process follows a fixed timeline. So timelines are associated with the SSR submission, that within 45 days you need to submit the self-study report. Timelines are associated for giving the response to the clarification asked during the data validation and verification process or during the IIQA process. So 15 days time will be given for DVV clarification. So DVV might have asked certain clarification. You need to give the reply within 15 days. So entire process is fixed timeline process, follows a fixed timeline process. Now the online student satisfaction survey, details will be highlighted in other part of the session. But this particular online student satisfaction survey, some important components are associated with self-study report, in which the data of the students will be collected as a part of SSR. So the institution should be giving the data of all the students who are studying on campus, their details of their enrollment number, roll number, mobile number, ID, all those details will be asked when you submit your self-study report. Now the quality indicator framework, the components and the formation, how it is made up of. So there are various types of institution which NAAC is considering, and accordingly they have defined the various schemes. So our category of institutions broadly classified as universities, autonomous colleges, and affiliated or constituent colleges. So for affiliated constituent colleges, we have two categories, UG and PG. So UG is having some different set of questions, and PG is having some slightly different set of questions. So we have got these four major schemes. Apart from that, we have some little consideration for specialized institutions such as health sciences, Sanskrit. Then we have some teacher education manual also, and also we have got a open and distance learning manual also. Some specialized manual we have developed, and the institution can opt for that particular health sciences. There are specific criteria when an institution will be defined as health science, when an institution will be defined as teacher education. So those criteria they have to follow, and accordingly they have to choose the scheme when they are applying for institutional information for quality assessment, that first step for assessment and accreditation. So for universities, we have 7 criteria, 34 key indicators. Criteria are broken down into key indicators, and within each key indicator, we have got certain quantitative questions and certain qualitative questions. So for universities, we have overall 36 qualitative questions and 79 quantitative questions, and overall questions alternatively will be defined as metrics or the parameters. So now we have overall 115 questions present in this university scheme. Similarly, for autonomous colleges, we have 7 criteria, 34 key indicators, 35 qualitative questions, and 72 quantitative questions. In all, we have 107 questions in the autonomous. And similarly, for affiliated colleges, 93 for UG and 96 for PG. The entire framework, quality indicator framework, can be understood with this mathematical model. It defines the criteria, the respective weightages associated with various criteria, and the number of quantitative and qualitative questions present in each of these criteria. So you can see that for university, this framework is defined. Similar framework is available for the autonomous colleges and for the affiliated colleges. So the criteria 1 is curricular aspect. The weight associated with this criteria is 150. There are 4 key indicators in this criteria. 2 qualitative questions are there and 9 quantitative questions are there. The criteria 2, which talks about teaching, learning and evaluation. And there are 7 key indicators in this criteria. And there are 6 qualitative questions and 13 quantitative questions. Similarly, criteria 3, criteria 4 and so on. So what is important for an institution? This quality indicator framework, it is available in the manual developed by NAAC in a form of table. So institutions should see the individual weight associated with various key indicators, various questions, and also they should see the data requirement and document requirement related to all the quantitative questions, because these are very important components which is useful for the purpose of validation of the data submitted to NAAC. So this is very important, that they should understand the intent of the questions, intent of the metric, and accordingly they should do the preparation for the self-study report preparation. Now moving ahead with the quality indicator framework, for criteria 1, which talks about the curricular aspect, the weight associated with this criteria is 150. And there are 4 key indicators in this criteria. The first one talks about the curriculum design and developments. So how do you develop your curriculum? The developmental process. If you're revising certain curriculum, if you're revising certain courses, those should be reflected in this particular key indicator. How do you design, develop your curriculum? What is the mechanism adopted for that curriculum? So related questions are present in this key indicator related to the design and development of your curriculum. The second key indicator talks about the academic flexibility. So how do you offer academic flexibility? You may be offering, implementing CBCS scheme, elective scheme. So how do you, those things can be projected in this particular key indicator, where you can put forth your efforts in order to bring the flexibility. What kind of flexibility you're providing to your students, and what is the mechanism adopted to provide the academic flexibility. The curriculum enrichment talks about how do you enrich your curriculum by incorporating some additional things in your curriculum. So you may be having certain value-added courses at your campus. So students may be adopting those value-added courses. So enriching of the curriculum, that can be projected in this key indicator. The feedback system here, it talks about if you have designed certain curriculum, the process of feedback adopted. I mean, this curriculum should not be some core committee members or board of study members should be developing this curriculum or some academic council. It should be, the feedback should be taken while revising your curriculum. So the feedback associated with the curriculum developmental process with the various stakeholders. We have defined certain stakeholders categories and some questions are there. So that feedback talks about the curriculum development and the relative feedback associated for the process. Criteria 2 talks about the teaching, learning and evaluation. So student enrollment and profile is the first key indicator in this. So if you are enrolling certain students, so what is their background? How you are enrolling your the students? What is the enrollment percentage of those students? The profile of students, and also the kind of the government policies you are adopting, the transparency in the admission process. All those things can be projected in this particular key indicator. The criteria, second key indicator talks about the catering to student diversity. There are various different kinds of students present in your campus. So the students' learning capability will be different. Some will be slow learners, some will be fast learners. Their background will be different. So if you are doing some specific measures in order to cater their needs based on diversity of the student, that can be reflected in the key indicator 2.2. The third key indicator talks about the teaching learning process. So the teaching learning process, what is the teaching learning process you are adopting? So generally teaching learning may be based on experiential learning, maybe participative learning, maybe problem solving approach. You may be using certain ICT tools for delivering the lectures. So teaching learning process adopted by the institution should be reflected in this key indicator. The teacher profile and quality. So you may be having different categories of teachers, maybe some experienced teachers, some middle-aged teachers, some young teachers, their qualification, their average experience. Some of the questions are present of such kind in this teacher profile and quality. Then evaluation process and reforms talks about what is the kind of evaluation process you are undertaking. So if you are doing the evaluation, then the reforms, whether you have undertaken any in the evaluation process, the transparency and also the grievance redressal mechanism of the evaluation are some of the components which can be projected in this particular key indicator. Student performance and learning outcomes. So students are there, they are performing. This performance will be measured in the average pass percentages or any other certain attainment of the learning outcomes. Like that, you can measure the kind of performance of these students. So that can be projected in this key indicator. The student satisfaction survey, here we will only take the data in the form of Excel sheet from these two, from you, and all these students which are on rolls under when you are applying for assessment and accreditation, that has to be submitted as a part of self-study report. While the student satisfaction survey only will be conducted after submission of self-study report. The criteria 3 talks about research, innovation and extension. So the first key indicator in this is promotion of research and facilities. So how do you undertake the research? You may be having certain laboratories, you may be having certain research facilities. So that research facility should be frequently upgraded. What kind of mechanism for their upgradation? What is the kind of policy you are doing? You may be having certain seed money policy that can be projected in this key indicator. The second key indicator talks about the resource mobilization for research. So how do you mobilize funds for conducting research? You may be receiving certain external grants. So grants received by the teachers, grants received by the departments, grants received by the institution can be projected in this key indicator. The innovation ecosystem talks about the kind of innovation you are having in the form of innovation incubation centers. So some kind of IPR related activities, some kind of startup related activities you can project in this key indicator. Then research, publication, and awards. Basically, it talks about the kind of publication your faculty members are having. However, we have defined the criteria for this publication. That means faculty members should publish the articles in the book chapters, conference proceedings, and also the referred journals. So those publications can be there. In case of autonomous colleges and universities, we have defined the criteria for publication. H-index and citation index will be considered from Scopus, Web of Science, and the PubMed. So we are taking the data in case of autonomous colleges and universities from InflibNet, from these external databases. So they are fetching these H-index and citation index from external databases and will be submitting it to NAC, and institution will be given a chance to see and ask a clarification about any kind of grievance or complaint regarding the numbers which are given by InflibNet. The next key indicator talks about the consultancy. So if the faculty members are providing certain consultancy, the policy related to consultancy, and also any kind of revenue generated out of this consultancy mechanism can be projected in this key indicator. The extension activities, you may be conducting certain extension activity under NSS or YRC or some blood donation camps. So those things can be projected in this key indicator. And also the awards, if any, if you have received under this extension activity, that can be brought in the key indicator. The collaboration. So collaboration, as I said earlier, it is promoted by NAC. So the institution should collaborate with the other organizations. So certain kinds of faculty exchange, student exchange, and other kind of research activities should be conducted under the collaboration. And the MOU which is signed for the purpose will be asked, the functionality of that MOU will be asked under some of the questions of this key indicator. The criteria 4 talks about the infrastructure and learning resources. So as this key criteria talks about the infrastructure, the first one is the physical facilities. So you may be having certain physical facilities in order to conduct the classes, teaching learning process. So physical facilities related to the academic activities, maybe some classrooms, maybe some kind of laboratories can be projected, and also for performing co-curricular activities. You may be having certain sports grounds, certain auditoriums. So physical facilities related questions are there in this key indicator. Then we have library as a learning resource. So you are having library. What is the kind of expenditure you're making on your library components? So expenditure for the subscription of the e-journals and e-books, and also for purchase of the physical books if you are having, and also the automation of the library by integrated library management softwares if you are having. So that can be there in this key indicator. And also the usage we are asking in this, how many people are using the library, that is also present in this key indicator. Then we have other key indicator is IT infrastructure, which is becoming really very relevant under these circumstances of COVID-19. So what is the kind of student computer ratio, and also the kind of bandwidth you are having on your campus? Some questions are based on this, and the number of classrooms having ICT facilities also is asked in this key indicator. The maintenance of campus infrastructure. So you are having certain infrastructure, but this should be utilized and should be maintained well. So what is the kind of expenditure you are doing, amount which is spent for the maintenance of the campus infrastructure, that can be reflected in this key indicator. Criteria 5 talks about student support and progression. So if you are providing any kind of support to your students by having certain guidance and certain kind of student grievance redressal mechanism, those supports can be projected. You may be providing certain guidance for the preparation of competitive examinations. So that can be projected in this. Then student progression. So if your students are progressing to higher education, that track record, we expect that you should be having a certain specific mechanism for maintaining this track record of the progression. So progression to higher education, and also if the students are clearing certain examination at the state level, at the national level, that can also be tracked and should be put in order in records for the purpose of student progression. Then student participation and activity talks about the participation of your students in various activities at such as culturals and sports if they are winning certain awards, and also the participation of students in your statutory bodies that can be projected in this key indicator. Alumni engagement talks about if you have certain alumni cell, that cell should be registered cell. The contribution made by the alumni, maybe financial, non-financial, that can be projected in this key indicator. Criteria 6 talks about the governance, leadership, and management. So there are 5 key indicators in this. The first one talks about the institutional vision and leadership, the kind of leadership you are having, the governance structure, what it should be reflective of the participative decentralization practices adopted, and it should be in line with your vision and mission statement that is there in this key indicator. And then strategic development and deployment talks about you may be having certain strategic plan for short-term plan, and for long-term you may be having certain plan. So how you are effectively deploying those plans, that can be projected in this key indicator. Then faculty empowerment strategies talks about if you have some faculty members, how do you empower your faculty members? You may be organizing certain professional development programs, faculty development programs. You may be sending your faculty members to the other organization for attending those programs. You may be providing certain kind of financial support for the faculty members to attend those programs. This can be projected in this key indicator. Then financial management and resource mobilization. So how do you manage your funding? So resource allocation, the financial planning, and also conducting internal and external audit, that can be projected in this particular key indicator. Then internal quality assurance systems, IQAC, we strongly recommend the establishment of the IQAC cell, and this should be a continuous cell, working continuous manner towards the upliftment of the quality of the institution. So various regular events and the programs through this IQAC cell should be conducted related to quality, and also the kind of feedback mechanism, the kind of identification of the challenges of the institution. So that, and also the cell should be so active that it should directly approach to your authorities in order to implement the plans, in order to cover those things. So IQAC minutes of meeting, regular meetings should be conducted. We are asking in this particular key indicator, and the kind of activities you are undertaking through this IQAC cell also should be there in this key indicator. The 7th criteria talks about the institutional vision and best practices. So institutional values and social responsibility. So some questions there are there in this key indicator which talks about the social responsibility aspects, and also certain kind of quality management practices. Waste management practices also, such as energy audit, green audit, and also kind of code of conduct handbook, and also certain facilities for the Divyangjan, and also is present in this type of key indicator. Now we have 2 other key indicators, one talking about the best practices and the other one is for institutional distinctiveness. Best practices, as already Shyam Sundar sir has highlighted, we are conducting some best practices webinars also through NAC. Those can be seen what are the best, to understand what are the best practices, because most often the institutions are confused about what to call best practices, how many best practices should be there, because when some question paper or some criteria is defined by some agency, the people try to see how to score maximum. That should not be the approach. Best practices, the intent of best practice, you may be doing certain things by adopting some mechanisms such as automation or kind of e-governance. There has been some improvement in the aspect. Those should be defined as best practices. That this we were doing for so many years, but by adopting this practice, our whatever we were performing earlier has improved. So impact of best practice should be there in the key indicator. We have given a write-up for this best practice, and a specific format is there in which the institution should be submitting the 2 best practices identified, and that will be evaluated by peer team, visiting team. They will be evaluating these practices, what you have written in your self-study report. Similarly, institutional distinctiveness. So how your institution is distinctiveness, distinctive in its approach and philosophy, you should be able to project in your neighboring region, in your locality. You are performing something extraordinary which others are not doing, or that distinctiveness you should be able to project. This is also qualitative question and indicator, and this will be evaluated by the peer team members. So this is all about the quality indicator framework and what are the types of questions present in the individual key indicator. Now moving ahead with this, as of now you may be aware that total score which an institution has obtained in the quantitative part and total score which they have obtained in the qualitative part will be deciding the grade of the institution. Now, the process of assessment and accreditation, because we have already matured enough, now all of you may be knowing in the entire process. I will be just quickly reviewing the entire process. First one is the registration. The institution need to register in the portal. Registration means they should be having the username and password. And any institution who want to come for assessment and accreditation, or who want to apply or submit their AQAR, annual quality assurance report, they have to register. So this is for all the institutions which are not accredited earlier in RAF. So even if they have been accredited in the previous framework, even then they have to register with their old credit, old CGPA grade, and old. So details will be asked in the registration process. User ID and password will be received by the institution as a success of this registration. After this, institution will be applying for IAQA if they want to come for assessment and accreditation. So IAQA is the first step. After registration, there is no timeline when to apply for IAQ. They can apply anytime. So IAQ is an online form in which the profile of the institution will be asked and the details about the programs which the institution is offering. So if it is a college, the affiliation related to various programs will be asked, and the affiliation compliance, eligibility criteria, etc. All those details will be checked in the IAQ. After completing this IAQA, submitting this IAQA, it will be verified, documents will be uploaded, will be verified by NAAC, and the institution will be receiving the IAQA approval. So after IAQA approval, within 45 days, the institution need to submit the self-study report. Self-study report is another online form in which the institution will be providing the information related to quantitative questions, the information related to qualitative questions. They will be giving the data, they will be writing the answers for the qualitative questions, they will be uploading the templates and also the document in the online portal. And all this has to be done within 45 days. So once this is completed within 45 days, they have to give the first installment of the SSR fee, which is 50% of the assessment and accreditation fee. And this assessment and accreditation fee is based on the number of departments you are having. So 50% of that assessment and accreditation fee has to be submitted along with the self-study report. And after this, I forgot, in IAQA also there is one fee associated with IAQ that has to be deposited along with IAQ application. Similarly, at the time of submission of IAQ SSR, 50% of assessment and accreditation has to be deposited. And after that, your SSR will be evaluated. So the process of evaluation will be done in phase-wise manner. The first quantitative part will be evaluated by a third-party agency. And once this evaluation is completed, then the institution will be receiving a pre-qualification success message if they clear 25% score in the quantitative part of the report. So the institution should secure 25% in order to go ahead for the peer team visit. So if they clear this pre-qualification, the peer team visit management process starts, in which the institution needs to deposit the remaining 50% of the assessment and accreditation fee along with logistics fee. And also they should provide the details about the nearest airport, and also the kind of we as a part of process, we will be asking about the details of the nearest hotels where the peer team members can be accommodated while they are visiting your institution. On the side of NAAC, we will be managing the peer team visit. NAAC officers will be managing the peer team visit, and through system selection, your 3-member committee will be decided by the officers of NAAC and system will be selecting based on the specialization of the institution and based on the specialization of the people we have. So we have 4,000 plus people with NAC who will be having with the diverse background, different specializations. So based on their specialization, these 3-member committee will be finalized. And once this is finalized, before 3 days of actual visit, you will be able to know who will be going to visit your institution. So when they are visiting your institution, they will be evaluating the remaining 30% of the qualitative questions. So whatever you have written in your self-study report, that will be shared with them, and also self-study report will be shared with them. They will be doing assessment on the qualitative questions. They will be deciding the scores related to qualitative questions, and they will be feeding that information in the portal of NAC. So during the visit only that feeding will be done, and the combination of this quantitative score and qualitative score will form a grade. So grade declaration also will be done through portal. It will be combined in the system, and after standing committee, the institution will be able to see the grade sheet, and also the scores obtained in various criteria key indicators will be reflected in their own portal after standing committee meeting of NAC. So here this grade will be declared. So this grade will be uploaded on NAC website also for all the institutions which are cleared for each standing committee. We used to upload grades on the website of NAC. So after declaration of grade, if the institution is not satisfied with the grade, they can come for appeal within 45 days after the declaration of the grade. And if they are satisfied, then they have to follow the subsequent process of submission of AQR as a post accreditation initiative. So annually they have to submit AQR report. Here, two important points which the institution should remember, that the institution should not lose any chance to respond to NAC. If NAC has asked certain clarification, those clarifications should be answered within a timely manner. For example, if during IAQS process, if the NAC has asked certain clarification about the document submitted, or during SSR submission process, SSR evaluation process, DVV, that is DVV process, if the NAC has asked certain clarification, and if the institution has failed to send the reply within a specified timeline of 15 days in case of DVV, NAC may take a call to define it as non-compliance, that you have not complied with the requirements. And then in that case, we may decide to reject your assessment and accreditation application. So then in that case, you will be, you should now, because rejection has happened, all the fee will be forfeited and you will be required to come again starting from IAQ. Because we have to follow a specific fixed timeline with which we have started. So the reduction in timeline was one of the objectives of introducing revised accreditation framework. So that's why everywhere we are very strict to timelines, and through portal only everything is happening. So extension of timelines is not possible unless very critical situation like this COVID-19 situation, or any flood, or any kind of political disturbances, natural calamities are there. We will not be able to extend the timelines in any of the processes associated with NAC. Now, the registration process details. There is an online form for the registration process. An institution need to give the information about the email ID, institutional email ID, the mobile number, and also the AISHE code. What the recent AISHE code, AISHE certificate you have to provide when you are filling IAQ. So AISHE code we are asking when you are applying to for registration to NAC. And also the accreditation information, whether you have accredited previously or you are coming for second cycle. So accreditation information, if you are saying we have been accredited by NAC, we ask the CGPA and grade. So that has to be submitted in the registration form. And once it is submitted, this will be verified against the database of NAC. And after verification of this information, you will be receiving institution will be receiving the activation link and user ID and password at the email ID which you have provided in this process. 2 points very important. The email which you are providing should be an institutional email ID, and also the mobile number will be asked. So the mobile number which you are providing also should be very carefully given to NAC, because these two details will be the one through which NAC will be contacting in case of any problems to you. So in your SSR, you will be mentioning all the details. So after receiving the user credentials, you will be able to access the HEI portal, and all the things will be done through this portal. Now, after this registration process, if you want to come for assessment and accreditation, you have to click on IAQA. And after registration, if you want to submit your AQR, there is a separate post-accreditation link in the last. You have to click on that particular AQR link, post-accreditation link. So if you want to come for assessment and accreditation, then IAQA is the first step. So as I said earlier, this IAQA seeks the profile of the institutions. The details about the program, courses, students and teachers will be asked. And also the scheme of the SSR is decided, whether you are a university, autonomous college, affiliated college, and also if you are a specialized institution, that will be decided here. The validity of validation of the eligibility criteria. So 6 years or 2 batches will be asked as a part of this IAQA form, and also SRA and affiliation compliance will be checked in this form. Whatever information you are providing, it becomes partially the part of your self-study report. And also, if the institutions, approved institution will only be allowed to submit the self-study report. If your IAQ is not approved, you will not be able to access your self-study report. So this is the process flow associated with IAQA. It starts with a basic eligibility check, after which you have to give the information related to affiliation of all the programs. If you're a university, then the recognition certificate will be asked, and also recognition if you're offering any professional programs. So that will be recognized by certain statutory regulatory authorities such as AICTE or MCI or BCI or something like that. So those certificates recent you have to provide. Then after this, you will be submitting the academic data input related to your faculty members. So how many faculty, permanent contract, their qualification, how many PhD, and also number of students, all those academic inputs will be taken. So here also the number is very carefully should be given, because whatever student number you are feeding here, that will be linked to your self-study report for student satisfaction survey. So number which you are providing in this IAQA form will become the base for conducting the student satisfaction survey. This has to be substantiated with IAQA fees of 29,500, and after giving this fee, you'll be allowed to submit the IAQA form. Document whatever you are providing related to affiliation or related to the recognition. It will be verified by NAC, and while doing verification, we check for the name discrepancy, we check for the languages in which the certificates are being uploaded, whether these certificates are recent certificates or not. So NAC officers are doing the verification of the documents submitted by you, and after verification, the IAQA will be either accepted in most of the cases, but sometimes we reject IAQA. There are specific, very little cases in which we reject the IAQA. The major reason is non-response from the institution, or maybe some problem in producing the documents. So, but these cases are very rare. So after acceptance of your IAQA, your SSR link for the submission will be opened, and within 45 days you have to submit the self-study report. If in case your IAQA is rejected, then you will be giving 2 more chances to submit your IAQA within same year. So with that same piece, you can submit twice more. 2 more chances will be given. You can again submit your IAQA application in case you fail, but generally this happens very rarely. So this is about the IAQA process. Now to take the technical session ahead, I would request IQAC coordinator to take ahead the session. In case any doubts are there related to my presentation, people can type in the chat box. We will take the questions at the last. Thank you very much for patience.
Thank you very much, madam.